the slave trade happened. And at first, it's not like the American transatlantic slave trade, but it's just people are enslaving people from Africa, so word kind of gets around. And at some point, the Native Americans hear about these tales of these creatures imbued in tree bark across the Atlantic. And they tell the colonists in Roanoke, Virginia, in the 1500s or whenever that happened. Yeah. And they decide to take their ship with the Native Americans and sail across the Atlantic, and they land in Namibia. And they get wiped out by the Farc ancestors. And that is indicative of how all foreign invaders and colonists and imperialists in this time are treated. And that's how Namibia remained independent in that timeline. Now, fast forward hundreds of years. It's mostly modern day, and Dong Farc and his buddy, I forgot his name, but he has a tree rex. And Dong Farc has a soul orb and Dong Farc's killed a bunch of people. And his ancestors have killed a bunch of people. This soul orb is really powerful. And Namibia, the Namibian government, wants to control this mana pool. Dong Farc and his buddy don't want that, so they fight a civil war, and they win. Farcum, Namibia is an independent nation, a sovereign state in this timeline. It's a split. And then, a couple decades later, comes our main character. Forgot his name. I think it's like Leo or Levi or something like that.
How did you forget your main character?
Because we made it up a while ago, and it's really not that important.
Yeah, it's really not that important.
The main character, they're going into Farcum High School, Farcum Academy, whatever it's called.
Is this also in Namibia?
No, it's in Farcum.
Ednon School.
Fart Academy, dude.
Oh, so it's in Farcum, Namibia.
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 That's our setting, is Farcum, Namibia. And this high school is run by Dong Farc, and it's close to the mana pool, and its primary purpose is to train people in the ways of Farcum and have them be able to control mana, capture cards, use them, whatever, to defend their nation. Mm-hmm. Right? They're like basically a military state because they have to, the U.S. government, the Chinese military, they want this stuff. They want the mana. And our main characters just entered this high school as freshmen, and in the first week of school, they get cards, their first cards. And the cards are supposed to choose them, and Dong Farc reveals what card is chosen. And that's true, the cards do choose them. But what's not true is that the chosen card is given to the person, because Dong Farc sometimes will step in. That's what he did for our main character. Petri Fishman shows our main character. Dong Farc said he didn't want that kind of power in a rando's hands, so he gave him a ball. Mm-hmm. So our main character has a ball.
That's right, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
And then he gets beat up by this bully. And the janitor finds him lying in a pulp of his own blood, and he's all beat up. And then the janitor gives him a first edition bandit squid, which is very powerful. And also provides the necessary amount of plot armor for our character, because bandit squid can dodge attacks.
Something no one else can do.
That's very important to how this guy's going to win fights. so anyway, later on, they beat up the bully, him and his friends, with his new bandit squid. One of his friends has a Bidoof, and the other friend is really, really fat, and he has a big baby, and that's important. The fatness is very important for later. So they beat up the bully, but the bully's brother is part of the Elite Eight, the student government of this school. And he's an upperclassman, and this kid is like full-on JROTC, buzz cut, get it done kind of kid. And this kid has a thumpback. And them beating up that kid's little brother gets them into the Elite Eight's gaze. And now they know they're there. And the Elite Eight are like mostly bad people. They'll have a little bit of complexities, right? But at the end of the day, they're like bullies, and they get in our way.
They like leading the school.
And
yep.
The leader of the Elite Eight is Krista L. Farc, Crystal Farc. Dawn G. Farc's like niece or daughter or whatever. They're relatives. And the rest of the Elite Eight don't really like her because she only has a Leafy. That's her card. And they think she's weak relative to them and only got her position because her uncle's like the head of the school.
And she's the first seat too, so she tells them she sends them on missions to go kill people.
So she's like the captain of the Elite Eight.
Like right. She'll be like 5 and 2, go take care of Levi or something.
And later on, something big happens. Like the finale of season 1 would be this. I don't know what the setting is really, but some kind of fight breaks out or whatever. And Krista L. Farc ends up betraying the rest of the Elite Eight, killing their cards with evil Leafy and powering him up. And that's when they realized she was actually strong. And she puts up a great fight against Bandit Squid, but he dodges every attack because the main character has him. And then he wins a fight. And then there's a bunch of other stuff going on. Like there's a rival school. Remember the guy who has Tree Rex, Don G. Farc's friend who fought with him in the Civil War? They split off. And this guy has his own school. And in the Mana Forest, they go on hunts. and they have to hunt down cards and stuff goes wrong there, and they fight that other school. And in the Mana Forest, there's the Enchanted Clock Cult, which they fight at some point. And then also in the Mana Forest is the road to Mount Boobies. And at some point, they take a field trip there, and they learn about it. And then later on, their fat friend goes missing. And it's revealed that the guy, Tree Rex, he doesn't have access to the mana pool directly to take mana. So he has to siphon it from the people that have access to the mana pool. And fat people have a lot of mana in them. So he steals the fat kid and he's milking him at Mount Boobies. He's so mana milk out of him.
It's like the Matrix.
I've
never seen the Matrix, freaking nerd.
They're milking the mana out of this kid. And eventually they track him down and they go and they beat Tree Rex. Mostly thanks to this guy who's got the beast.
Wait, he's like they beat the guy who has Tree Rex or Tree Rex? Like
the guy who has Tree Rex.
And there's a guy who has the beast. And it's revealed later that he's not a human. And it's the beast projecting a human form to protect the mana pool and its inhabitants and all that stuff. But yeah, he's the main reason they can beat Tree Rex, because otherwise they weren't doing all that. But they rescue the fat kid. And then he's like almost dead because he's been milked so much. But there's a big bucket of mana milk, and they make him drink it to survive. But it's too much. It's too powerful. So he has a huge mana transformation. He gets even fatter than before. And then the mana flows from him to his card. And his card was Big Baby. In the upgraded form of Big Baby's Big Toddler. But this card says Big. It's only half of the Big Baby. But once he comes to, he said his butt crack itches. So he pulls out another card and it says Toddler. And you put them together and he's Big Toddler. And this is crazy foreshadowing, because it shows you that if you power up with more mana than you could handle, it can go to your card and power up the card and turn it into something different.
So mana gets even more important.
Yeah, super.
And later on, way later, I don't know how it happens, but somebody captures Farcum Jesus in a card.
It's like a totally different thing.
and they crucify him. And that pisses off Farcum God, because there's a planet out there full of mana. It's a mana planet, and it's a planet Farcum. Named still in progress. Still in progress. And Farcum God takes his planet, his home, and he uses it as a ship and a weapon both at the same time, and he just sends it at Earth. But it's a liquid, right? So it's going fast, but it crashes into Earth, and it doesn't cause like an explosion necessarily, but it pops like a water balloon, and all the mana just envelops Earth. And so a lot of it evaporates in the atmosphere, but some of it rains down, and and they think the flood has come. They think God has brought the flood, but it's Farcum God, and he brought mana. Mana 2, in fact, is more powerful mana.
Diamonds.
I forgot that plot point.
Nice.
And then, so cards get powered up, Big Weld turns into Bigger Weld, Mortar turns into Mortars, Big Babies turn into Big Toddlers, all that stuff I forgot. But more importantly, some other places outside of Farcum, Namibia, start to experience this mana phenomenon. As people and animals start mutating into pre-existing cards, like a raccoon will turn into a Bidoof and it can get stuck in paper or whatever, and people can turn into Petries and all that. It's crazy. And then, that's where we're at.
Rick and Morty.
We haven't gone any farther than that, I don't think, right?
How many seasons worth of story is that?
Probably like
We're looking to
3,
make this
4.
like a One Piece deal, so this is gonna go for like 40 plus years.
This is our
it goes
One
into
Piece.
the 25,000 year, and then they have space travel, and they can find more Farcum planets, because there's a pantheon of Farcum gods that I don't know.
Wait, so that's where like the
It's like
lore
Greek god
developed,
type
and
deal.
That's where you're planning to take it.
Well, we're planning to take it to where Farcum God throws a planet at Earth. That's
Yeah,
where we're
that's
at.
as far as we have, but we have a major disconnect into, where the season 1 finale up to the Mount
where
Movies,
that's
and to where
we have
that
a lot
happens.
to fill in before
I feel like there should be a part where
so
like
the
Don.
part where Farcum Jesus gets crucified is like way, way later.
It's way later. It's not like
We
a
haven't
directly
bridged that
after.
gap.
We have no idea how or
So
why that's going to
there's
happen.
Be like a several hundred, several thousand year gap in
No,
between.
it's like maybe a
They're gonna
year
be
gap
like
at most,
juniors in
but
high
stuff
school in the
happens.
fucking
Yeah.
second.
They should probably be seniors by the time this happens.
They'd be on the new Elite 8 Council.
That's right.
And there can be
So
beef
it's
with
like-
the
it's
other
like
members.
They could have all the other
It's
friends that they met along the way
they
with
develop
them.
their skills at school, and then they have to like
Once
take
they
those skills
once
out
they
into, like, the
conquer
mega-
high school, once they're like the top dogs, and their only stopping point is Dong Fark himself. That's like the only guy they wouldn't be able to beat. That's where Farcum God comes in.
Mm.
And fuck shit up.
You know what'd be crazy? What if like Dong Fark partners up with Farcum God to try and like
God would be crazy.
subjugate the entire
Dude,
world?
because at this
under
point,
his
his
own
soul
rule.
orb's like ultra powerful. No, bro, he tries to kill God. He
Yeah.
he killed Jesus to get God's attention. So if he can
So he
kill
can become
God,
God.
so dude, God's power going into soul orb. Oh my God, dude.
There's a shot at the end of season 2.
Yeah.
It's a post-credit scene, and it's Dong Fark in a basement, just like Attack on Titan. He's reading all these notes from his ancestors,
Mhm.
and they mention a voice in their head telling them, "I am Farcum God." And, and then that's where he's been fixated on this since he was a child. And something clicked when that random person captured Farcum Jesus, put him in a card, and he knows that he needs to take out this person or get this card somehow and kill this card.
Yeah.
You know what could be a crazy twist
What?
that you could use to connect it all back to like God trying to blow up Earth?
What?
So maybe like Dong Fark, since like maybe his whole plan this entire time has been to try and kill God and become Farcum God by being the most powerful, and he was using like the Elite Eight as his like special operations team to like find all the information for him and bring him more powerful. So like this whole time the main characters have actually been doing his bidding to try and get Farcum God's attention.
Wait, I got this. So I like that. I think that should be his plan the whole time, because he's gonna be like a bad guy the whole time, but
Yeah.
not a hateable character. Because he's always gonna be there and not really beefing with the main characters. I was thinking a way to bridge this gap, not entirely at all, because the space is a huge leap,
Yeah.
but like raise the scope to a worldwide level with the Kraken versus Destiny's Bounty stuff.
Yeah.
They graduate high school, and they're like 20 now, and they're in the Farcum Namibian military. And that's where they get involved in this naval battle between the Chinese with Sensei Wu and the Americans with the Kraken.
Yep.
The Chinese having Sensei Wu is fucking hilarious.
I think it's awesome.
You gotta turn it into a webcomic or something.
Yeah.
Animate all
Are
of
there
it.
like those AI generator?
Dog, how are you gonna describe any of this?
Oh, exactly how we just said it, dude.
Imagine giving it
Fat guy gets-
Fat guy gets milked in a food fountain.
Fat guy gets a mana sucked out of him,
In a dank,
and he
dark
is
cave.
forced to drink it by his friends.
Do you guys remember what Farcum Jesus does?
All I
Farcum Easter. He's gonna come back later in the story, and he's gonna be pissed at Don G. Fark.
Yeah.
Dude, Farcum Jesus fights Don G. Fark? That's crazy.
After he already like fell to his hand.
No, okay, when
The
Dom
revenge arc?
Fark kills Farcum God and his soul orb becomes super powerful, he looks at the camera and says the G stands for God.
That's so good.
It's God,
It stands for God now.
Yeah.
No, bro, he takes a Sharpie to his driver's license.
Instead of Don
And
Fark,
writes
he becomes
God.
Don God Fark.
And the sun returns and he stops Dong Fark. And that I don't know if that'll be the end, man. We could go somewhere.
I feel like that could be the
What if
bridge
the
to all
main
the other
characters
Farcum gods
step
coming in.
in,
Because
main-
Jesus is like, what are you going to do when my squad pull up? And then all the other Fart gods
Jesus
pull up.
goes too far. He overcorrects. Not only does he kill Dong Fark,
Yeah.
but he starts to take it out on the rest of humanity.
Mhm.
And what's the only other god we have in canon is like Aphrodite, right? So she
Yeah.
could be the first one to step in. and-
Pussy whips
yeah.
Jesus.
And then the main characters step in to help Aphrodite stop Farcum Jesus.
Whose side is anyone on
I
now?
don't know.
Because like Farcum Jesus is no longer the good guy if we do that.
No, yeah.
Aphrodite's not going to be. Is she gonna be good?
I don't know.
She's
She
a
could be
girl.
like a new love interest.
I don't know what else. I don't know what else you had planned, but
Well-
I thought the best course of action would be like if the main characters, like once they've been in the Elite Eight, going on all kinds of crazy Farcum missions for a while, figure out that like they've actually just been puppets to Don G. Fark trying
Well,
to.
I kind
kill
of like the
God whole
idea
time.
of Dong Fark and like Farcum God and Farcum Jesus being like the final conflict. And I like the idea of having it totally jump the shark right near the end and have a regular show in space kind of deal where he throws the planet and they
Yeah.
fight and all that. I like that being like the final season.
Is that
It's
like the end of the
raises
show?
stakes,
What if the
yeah.
main character literally dies?
Depending
How would
on
he
how
do
we-
that? His brain just dodges every attack ever.
Yeah.
Every attack.
Well, it's a dice roll,
what if
but
he has
you know, it just happens to be every time.
That'll be why Dice Meister's always present when he's
What
fighting.
if he has
True.
to like sacrifice himself or his card to help kill Jesus at the end?
Maybe the ball. You sacrifice the ball. Bandit Squid's not dying, Philip. That's part of the plot.
No, Bandit Squid, like, dude, he, like, sacrifices his abilities, Bandit Squid, to fight Jesus forever, but he's not going to have any of his powers anymore. He's not going to have that connection to his cards, so it's like a sacrifice.
Anymore.
He can't dodge anymore.
So he has, at this point, he has quad sack, right? Because they beat tri-sack. That was probably a whole arc.
That's probably
and
Caesar's
he
doing it,
adds
I don't
his
know.
ball to the tri-sack, so he
Yeah.
has quad sack. But quad sack can't match up against the Soul Orb or Farcum God. He needs to be able to get 2 attacks in. And he can't do that without the Bandit Squid's dodge.
Nope.
So he needs to, like, have Bandit Squid die or something, and have the quad sack get the dodge. I don't know how that would work. That's not how the game works, but
I feel like
plot armor Squid Bandit was touching the 4 nuts, and they're all talking.
all his tentacles.
I hate it when Squid Bandit touches my 4 nuts.
Squid Bandit wraps his tentacles around the whatever the nut tubes are that connect them to the rest of your body, and then that's how they get done.
Yeah, that would be a sick card design.
And here's the thing. When they fully do their powerful attack, they still have Squid Bandit's tentacles attached. He can't get them off at this point, and it stretches and it rips them off and kills the Squid Bandit after the testicles.
Good way to write him out of the story. Now this kid's out with nothing.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't even need to be out of the story because the story only goes on for like a chapter after that until they finish.
No, it writes the magic guys out of it. His magic guys out of the story.
After that, he could get the Petri, the original Petri.
Is he ever gonna get Petri though? Because how's he gonna find out?
Like,
I think he should
pull
get
the
that
Petri
at
out
a
of
certain point
Soul's
before
mouth.
that. I think what it should be is like he goes into the final fight with Trisac, Ball, Squid Bandit, and Petri Fishman. Those are his 4 cards that he's got along the way. Because obviously,
when did he get Petri?
At some point earlier in the story.
So this would be before Squid Bandit dies then?
Yeah, way before. Squid Bandit would die in like the last couple episodes.
Okay.
He'd die in the big fight at the end.
I have an idea. What if he doesn't just collect Petri at some point and he's just on his team like a Pokemon now and he has these 3 cards, like Trisac, Squid Bandit, Petri? What if he actually ends up meeting with Petri at some point in the story and he's like, hey, back then when I chose you, because he finds that at some point in the story, and he ends up meeting him, he's like, hey, back then when I chose you for a reason. Like, you were this weak kid who needed my help. You're not that kid anymore. I can't be your spirit or whatever they are. So he leaves, and that's like a big moment for the kid. He's like, wow, I've come so far. But then at the end, when he loses his cards, the Trisac, Quad Sack or whatever dies, Squid Bandit dies, or whatever, the thing that you were just describing, basically.
Yeah.
They're kind of out of the story now. He comes back. And that's how they have this big conflict at the end with Jesus. That's how they beat him.
Okay.
Because Petri came back.
So the final boss order, it's a boss rush at the end.
It's Kirby Star
Yeah,
Allies,
you're a
pretty
Farcum
much.
God
Yeah.
who wants to kill humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And then Donji Fart kills him.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like, oh shit, this dude's too powerful. So Farcum Jesus steps in and he's like, you killed my father. And the kids are like, that's a good point. So they fight Donji Fart.
Yeah.
And then Farcum Jesus is like, this is not enough. I miss my dad. And he wants to nuke Earth.
Yeah.
Farcum nuke it. And then, that's the final boss. The final boss is Jesus. They kill Jesus at the end of the story.
Yep. That's awesome.
I do know there has to be a scene where the girl,
By the way.
whatever her Bidoof power is, she's just chucking rocks at one of the Elite 8. I
No,
remember.
Bidoof digs under the earth.
Ah.
Yes, but because we can't do that.
Yeah, I forgot that he digs up the ground.
She just
I
grabs
forgot about
chunks of the
that.
ground and just chucks it at
Yeah.
people.
Dig 60,000 times until she makes a substantial pit.
And then the skinny kid can make clones of himself.
Because he's multiple eggs or something.
Okay, well, okay. Here's
That's how we
something
do
I
so
wanna
much
clear
damage,
up.
I
How do
guess.
we want to do the battling? Because originally I was like, oh, the beast becomes a part of the human.
I think it's super like it's maybe funnier if they like their powers go to the human, but
Yeah.
that's also like this is gonna sound stupid because the rest of the story, but that's so weird. Like it might be better if it's like Beyblade,
Or
where
like
they
Pokemon.
stand, or like where they stand behind the creatures, or the creatures are
Yeah,
behind
I was
them,
thinking
whatever.
they should summon them from the card.
Yeah, I
I-
like that one.
I kind of like a mix of both of them. I feel like dependent on the bond that these guys have with their card, they can either summon them or take on their abilities. That's why
I
Rotten
like
Eggs.
that.
That's why Rotten Eggs Kid can become 4 eggs, and that's why he does so much
Because
damage.
that allows us to use like the human abilities in certain areas, and like when they're really in a big fight, that's where they summon their card.
Yeah.
The creatures fight.
And like have multiple, because you can only like have one creature with you. So if the main character is gonna have quad sack.
Well, I think it's the
Petri,
other
and-
way around. Like, I think you have multiple cards, and depending on the bond with those cards, their abilities can interact within you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you could have Squid Bandit and quad sack.
Yeah, with it. Well, I don't know how the fuck quad sack would manifest.
You just get-
Well, yeah, that's why. That's also the main reason why I don't have a
Pee
split,
harder.
because it's like, how are we gonna have Quadsack become this kid? You know, like it's just, you know.
As a kid, he grows like 4 of them, and then he has to use them with Squid Bandit like wrapped around him.
Yeah, like,
You got
Squid
Squid Bandit
Bandit's like
just
wrapped
lassos
around his balls.
And then, like in a fight, traditionally you can only use one card at a time. But when they're in these really huge fights and it's like kind of no holes barred, that's where they can put a bunch of cards down.
Mhm.
Okay.
But your control over each one gets worse.
This also helps us power scale things because we know how powerful a character is if they can bond and express their abilities while having the guy
And that
actually
could be
summoned.
a function of like how much mana they have within them, you know?
Yeah.
Like how the one kid is like off the charts on the school's mana reader. It's like, what the fuck's wrong with you? It's 'cause
This
he
is-
is that card.
This
Yeah,
gonna
he
be,
is
like,
big.
the greatest story ever.
Yeah.
No, because it's genuinely really good. Like,
Like if we made this serious and not the Farcum stuff, it would actually be like a really compelling narrative.
What's
Yeah.
the message? What should the
There-
viewer take away? at the
You
end?
gotta get lucky because the janitor gave you a really overpowered flower.
get
I don't
bullied.
fuck with a big message, bro. I'm
I just kind of like
shit.
cool set pieces, and you know.
The message is
I like the Transformers
Namibia.
movies.
Yeah,
so
for
that should
real.
tell you all you need to know.
Don't live in Namibia and don't drink the Farcum water.
Don't be a girl.
No, yeah.
All of our main characters are
Dude,
male.
I can't wait for the fat kid to have his like love interest arc and it's big baby girl.
Mhm.
Oh man.
Yeah, and then they find out they're like cousins or some shit like
But
that.
they keep it pushing.
Yeah. And then we just have to write him out of the story somehow because that's uncomfortable.
The final scene is them kissing in space.
No helmets because they're so big they can just do that.
They can generate their own oxygen.
Yeah, they're their own gravitational field, you know. Osmosis.
You're so fat you have an atmosphere.
Yeah, like literally, it could work. Your card's so
I
fat.
think at some point, because obviously a lot of the story will be foreshadowing the existence and power of Farcum God and all that.
Yeah.
At some point, between when Farcum Jesus is crucified and when Don G. Fark gets his hands on him and fully like kills him after his first resurrection, because he can keep resurrecting every 3 days. They don't got the same limitations as our Jesus. But they send, you know, the Ford F-150 Cyclone from the Battle Cats. They send Henry.
Yeah.
Farcum God sends Henry, and that's the first real interaction between the planet and Earth. And they have to beat Henry as like a mid boss.
Okay. Okay. Lots of foreshadowing.
Yeah, it's
But
just
it's like well written too.
I don't know. I'm trying to flesh out the Elite Eight in my head. I like those.
Yeah,
I like the the difference between these stakes versus these stakes. Like much.
God is angry versus
I got bullied.
I
at
got
school
bullied.
versus killing God.
It's like the progression of a regular show episode, but across a whole show.
Across a whole show.
Imagine that.
Yeah, I like that quite a bit because the way that the show starts is still really weird,
Yeah.
and it's there's no normal in this show, which I think is really fun.
Like it keeps the same level of what the hell is this, but like just different
At
stakes,
some point,
know?
you just learn to like go with it, and you're like, oh, okay.
That moment is probably, if it's not the Enchanted Cult, however weird we make that, it's definitely when the fat kid gets kidnapped.
Yeah.
That's
If
definitely
you don't drop the show by then, you're
Yeah,
kind of in.
If you
know?
made it through the milking arc, you got it, dude.
Our fans are going to be discussing this on Tumblr, what their favorite arcs are, and everyone's going to say the milking arc is the most divisive.
The milking arc or the Sino-American naval battle.
Sensei, they're like, what the fuck did I assign Sensei Wu to the Chinese?
This is very insensitive.
This isn't even from the right culture.
Well, why would the main characters be fighting in an American and Chinese naval
Because
battle?
Don G. Fark realized that the American and Chinese navies have these really powerful cards, so he sends his military to step in.
Yep.
Oh, and then like
I might
right
have
out
to
of high
step
school,
in.
all the main characters join the military.
Because
Yeah.
that's what the high school is for in this
Oh.
society.
Yeah,
So
because they're a
So
hyper-militarized
they raise,
society.
Like Namibian nationalists.
Yes,
or
I
something?
told you.
Oh, they are,
It's a
yeah.
military state.
Yeah.
Oh.
This all connects, Philip. We have this thought out.
Don't stop asking it like it's a plot hole. Okay.
It's not. There are no plot holes in our story.
Yeah.
The best thing about this story is like it's so outlandish that it's like putting a piece of clay where a plot hole is. It's just like, oh,
Yeah, this works.
works. Well, if that's a plot hole, then fucking this person just put them there.
I thought I helped you guys come up with the idea of the main characters being betrayed by their former master when he tries to murder God.
I like it.
Yeah. You
Should
did.
it be just Krista getting betrayed by her dad, not all of them? Because they work for Krista, because she's the first chair, but she works for Don
Well,
G.
Krista
Fark.
betrays them, but they don't really like her anyway. If you're talking about the Elite Eight,
Yeah,
it's like a mutual.
but they don't.
Are you saying, like, does Krista not know how bad her dad is?
Yes. She
Yeah.
doesn't.
She definitely doesn't know,
like,
but
the dad betrays her, but they betray
Dude,
her.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't know if Krista's surviving to the final.
yeah,
season.
no, I don't
No,
think
no,
so.
she's
Like,
done.
does she get redeemed? Like, I don't.
No, she for sure gets sucked into the soul.
She gets sucked by her dad.
Like Dracula versus Alucard, where it's like the whole group is kind of against the guy, but then since Crystal's like his daughter.
No, there's no redemption arc for Krista L. Fark. Bro.
It's just a tragic story for her.
Oh, she's just
Well,
like
she
a
she
bitch.
sucks, but
Yeah.
like it's tragic that like she died for all this and like
But the only problem that arises with raising the stakes this much is like it'll be tough, if not impossible, to have any recurring characters be like non-main recurring characters be threats farther into the story. It's just not.
we have like literally no one like nobody's gonna be a threat except for just Dong by that
Okay.
point. Like I mean we can have all our little stories, we can have our little scuffles with all the other side villains and whatnot.
Yeah.
But because this just came out of such left, not really, but you know, just because this outweighs everything,
Yeah.
that just kind of drops every other
I mean,
conflict.
the hardest thing to write every single time will be why is Don G. Fark not just killing whatever villain of the week we're dealing with?
Yeah.
So we have to come up with an excuse every time.
Because he's in it so deep that none of this really matters, and all of the people in our story, all our main characters, all the people we're actually following, just kind of stumble upon his doings. Like they know about him, but they have no way of really reaching it because the scale that he
Well,
works on
it's
is
not
so
like-
big.
It's not why aren't the main characters stepping in with what Dong's doing?
But why he's not stepping in what they're doing?
Yeah, like, well, not necessarily them, but like the people they're fighting. Because I
Mhm.
think most of the time, Dong Fark is gonna be on like mentally on the side of the main character.
Mhm.
That's why he's like a bad dude, but not really a hateable guy. Because the times he does step into the story, he's helping him out, like
Mhm.
fighting tree wrecks, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's why I think it'd be good, where it's like they're basically working for him until he decides to kill God, because like maybe he's trying to like make them stronger so they can
Yes,
help
they
him fight
respect
God
him
in
the whole
end.
time. I think because he's like their leader of their country.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
that's
that's
why,
true.
That's why he doesn't kill all the villains, because he's having them like go out and kill them to get all the powerful cards.
Yeah, but as the stakes go up, that's why I said like not in the beginning, because the only real one we have to write out is like why he's not fighting Tree Rex, and we already brought that up. It's because the reason he leaves Tree Rex's school alone and stuff is because that's like the only dude on Earth who can really step to him. So he doesn't want to start like a nuclear explosion trying to fight him. But it's the other villains as the stakes get raised. Like there's gonna be other people doing bad stuff, and like why doesn't Dong step in?
I mean, there could be a part where it's like when the water balloon hits, like all
The
those
schlapping.
villains in the Elite Eight, like,
Because they're way dead by then.
Yeah, I think.
are they dead,
I
or
think you
like
should
are
have
they
it so
gonna
that,
get
like,
vomited up?
every
Well,
single-
at the very least, their cards are destroyed.
I think every single other problem should get resolved before God tries to kill you.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and there's no loose ends because the story's also going to end there. I think. Well, I guess one reason when you talk about why doesn't he step in for all these other like villains that we're going to have, I feel like that's entirely dependent on their motivations. Because are they threatening our main characters? Are they threatening the school? Are they threatening the country? If it's the first two, I mean, yeah, I totally see why not. But like, what other motivations do you think that these guys should have? Because like, what reason would he have to step in to just these guys being like, wow, I fucking
Yeah,
hate
but
these
like,
high schoolers?
I mean, for example, like the Enchanted Clock Cult.
Yeah.
Like, why, if he knows about that, which if he doesn't, first of all, that'd be really tough to explain because this
Right.
guy's like the most powerful character in the story.
Yep.
But if he does know about that, why does he not take him out? Like, why is it on our main characters? To take him out?
What do they do?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't
Because,
know
like,
what it does.
If they're just like these crazy cult worshippers, like, what does that have to do
You're
with?
saying it's like beneath him,
I
basically?
feel well, kind of yeah, but also like I don't really think he has a reason to fix something like that because if his main goal is just to protect the mana pool, give no one else this power. I mean, how does that really affect him? They're still
Yeah,
gonna live in
I
the
guess
forest.
we could have him be hyper focused on like outside issues.
Yeah.
Stopping people outside from coming in, but what's happening in the mana forest, he doesn't really monitor that much. He just the only real time he steps in like micro sense is handing out the cards.
Mm-hmm.
So beyond that, we can have him be basically absent.
Yeah.
He's doing bigger
The
things.
stakes before him, like before he gets mainly into like largely integrated into the story, don't really have anything to do with
Okay.
how the world is going to affect Farcum Namibia.
Yeah. Like the first time we really see him take action is when the Chinese and the U.S. are fighting, and
Right.
he realizes that shit, that's a huge mana signal. They got a card somehow,
Mm-hmm.
and so he sends his military force to go stop that.
Yeah.
So
That's his first time where he's mainly
his
like
motivation is about like protecting Namibia and
Farcum
increasing
Namibia.
his own power.
Well, increasing Farcum Namibia's power.
Yeah, he does care about the country, but
It's
it's
mostly because the country is like his power.
yeah,
He's
it's
the
an
most
extension
powerful
of
person
him.
on Earth, but like he's not stopping a nuke. You know, his soul orb can kill a bunch of people, but he still needs an actual military force backed by this mana to deter other nations.
Well, I mean, yeah, what you could just make the plot about like other nations trying to like encroach on Farcum.
No, that'd be
Namibia
super
and
boring.
take
That
it.
can only happen like once or twice, I think.
I feel like that could happen once, relatively early on, maybe like season 2-ish, just to show us that hey, this is why this isn't a viable option. Like this is why countries don't just do this because they get so just washed.
Well, that would be when the U.S. and China do it, and he finds out that they stole our cards, so they just obliterate both of the biggest navies on Earth. It's like, damn, fucking Namibia means business.
That's right. Then that has to happen relatively early.
Well, it'd be like so they beat the Elite Eight, other stuff happens with the school, and then they graduate. And the first thing after graduation is that conflict.
Okay.
So it'd be like
This is their first foray into the
it
real
maybe
world
be
that
like
they
the
grew up
season
for.
3 storyline is
Okay.
them elsewhere on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
So season 1 is like dealing with the Elite Eight. Season 2 is their upperclassmen years in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And season 3 is a war.
And then season 4 is
Kill.
killing God.
No,
Jesus
There'd be
dies.
other stuff between the war and the killing God, I think.
Oh,
There'd have to be a season of like major buildup.
I see. Well, the thing is, like, after the war, right? So basically, I'm assuming America and China's navies are both like obliterated, right?
Yeah.
So that like massively changes the power structures on Earth.
Yeah, we don't care about that.
How about the
Yeah,
I was
that's like where the plot would logically go after you just like destroyed basically the two major superpowers on Earth for these cards. Like what happens now?
Tell me why the plot would go there though.
Because like who fills the gap? How does Farcum Namibia play into all of this? How
You
they
know,
literally
Farcum Namibia
destroyed.
doesn't care. Donji Farc cares about his own.
you're saying what happened? Well, not connected to that, but you're saying like what happened after the whole military conflict? America and China just get totally like wiped, and that proves their strength. That our main characters did it. They protected Farcum Namibia. How about the motive? How that goes to, I'm gonna kill God. How about that goes to because he's so happy with their performance and he's so much more involved in their lives. We get to see a lot more of Donji Farc like in the
In the
flesh.
next season.
He's hanging out with a lot of the people like personally. He's they're in high level positions for him because he's so thankful, and they end up going on trips. They try to find out like the origin of the mana pool. We're never gonna give him that answer, by the way. We're not gonna explain any of that. He's gonna try to find the origins of the mana pool. Why is this here? Because he has all this power, but he still doesn't really know why this exists. So he's going around the rest of the world like trying to like find evidence and like trying to piece this together, and he ends up coming upon some like dried up old civilization that is suggested to
Farcum Atlantis.
Farcum Atlantis. Hey, maybe they had a pool at some point too. Like what happened here? What I want to avoid this. What's going on? He gets all insecure. He's going through. He orders everyone to go, all over the civilization, unearth everything they possibly can. Because now he's getting like really freaked out. And they discover the existence of. He didn't know Farcum God existed before. So they discover that these people used to worship them because they were probably like the first Farcum civilization. And he finds all this evidence like that he existed, and he's getting deep into their texts. And then the shift of the story from our main character's perspective kind of goes away from that, but he's still working in the background. We get these glimpses of like him learning more info, and you mentioned that little like post-credit scene or something,
Yeah, where
and he
he's
discovers
reading ancient texts.
ancient texts. He discovers God, and
Farcum God.
we see this in the background of his plan hatching, just totally like away from all these main characters. So while our main character's doing fucking whatever, we see this guy's plan forming, and he's hatching all this, and he's like, I have to kill God, and that's the end of that season.
Okay.
So like
One
mid-season as he kills Jesus.
Question. So I'm assuming Dong Fark, right? Like his whole big thing is that he really cares about Farcum Namibia, and he wants it to be like strong and protected, right?
Mhm.
So does he want to become God so he could like better protect Farcum Namibia, or like why does he even want to do that?
That could be part of his like, because the thing is, when he finds this old ancient civilization that used to be just like him, he was like, how do I prevent this? You know, like
Yeah.
what do these guys know? What can I learn from this?
Because I think you know those conspiracy theories about those structures in the Western Sahara where they think that was Atlantis, like that's what people meant by Atlantis. That can be canon in our story. Like that is Farcum Atlantis. It's not underwater. It's dried up in the Sahara, and there's a Farcum Nile that goes down from that, and it's not flowing, but it's like a empty riverbed now.
Yeah.
That there's cities built, countries have divvied it up and stuff, and it's not like a huge thing. It's basically like Africa's Grand Canyon, and it's a riverbed that goes from this destroyed city all the way to the Mana Lake, right, the Mana Pool. And then as Don G. Fark investigates this stuff, he realizes that this was a man-made river. Ancient people were guided somehow to dig this out, so they knew there was a disaster coming.
Yeah.
And he needs to figure out what the disaster was, what caused it, how they knew, and what signs he needs to look for, and how he needs to stop it.
I think maybe in the end, if he figures out that like God ended up destroying the ancient society, so he has to kill him if he wants to protect Farcum Namibia or whatever.
That's an interesting angle on
But
it,
he
yeah.
doesn't know why God did it. So he just knows he needs to get this guy out of here because he has the power to do it. He doesn't care what his reason was. He just needs to prevent that from even being a possibility.
Yeah, but I think that makes sense if he wants to like kill God to protect the country.
Yeah.
So like after he goes on this big mystery of like why did this big ancient civilization die, and he figures out, oh, God killed them. It's like, if I don't want this to happen to me and I want to make like this big powerful Farcum magic nation, then I have to kill him first.
Yeah, and he's like, well, if God doesn't come back, I have to do something drastic to get his attention. And then he kills Farcum Jesus.
Yeah.
And then water balloon.
Because somebody else, some other character, found Farcum Jesus. Don G. Fark goes after him to get it. And then the final thing before the final season is Henry is sent and defeated. And that's when you get the post-credit scene of God like, I gotta step in. And the next season is the water balloon and aftermath and leading up to fighting and killing God and all that.
It's so fucking good. It's
It
so
kind of
good.
works, bro.
It does work.
Dude, writer's strike, we need to step in.
Bro.